So we're a couple days removed from the Tempest freerunning Kings of the Concrete, and we've allowed it all to sink in. And I just want to start off by saying that this event exceeded expectations. But I'm going to throw to you first, Tom, and I want you just to kind of tell everyone without giving too much away what the event was like.
Yeah, totally. So I guess before I even get into that, they did ask that we not share the results. So they explicitly said not to share results, not to film anything, which is what we predicted in our last episode. We did think that they were going to ask people not to film. So so just kind of broad strokes, I thought the event was really excellent. I thought it was quite an exciting watch. There was some story development that happened throughout the competition. It was tournament style, which was based on their online competitions that they held over the last couple years. And yeah, it was an excellent event. It was a nice, tight, short event. I think it was 2 hours or so. As a spectator, which is something that we don't really get to experience often at a competition, I felt like we were well taken care of. There was tons of sponsor booths, like vendor booths that we could go up to, try out some products. They had some drinks that were available for the attendees. It was just a really nice, relaxed vibe, and we got to kind of kick back and watch the event. There was no I didn't feel any temptation to train or try to do any parkour during the event. I was pretty much there as just a spectator, and it felt like I was able to kind of fully immerse in that experience.
We might be the only ones that
probably
had that feeling. I feel like there's an age thing where some of the younger people in the audience are like, I just want to get on stage and play on the same stuff. Whereas you and I just wanted to get on stage to marvel at the scale of things after the show was over. And I just want to dial back a little bit to that live experience. So if we can, we'll try to, I guess, for our viewers, describe in words what it was like to be there. So the setup, they had out in a parking lot. They had a lot of these platforms, so typical scaffolding type platforms that they did some unique things with. They also had a shipping container, and then they welded bars into existing railings on the spot, as well as drilled into the concrete itself. And when we say, so again, Kings of the Concrete, I assure you the floor was concrete.
Yeah.
And we decided to splurge and get a VIP table. So the VIP table cost us $300 USD, and it's a small round table. We got 3 chairs, and we're sitting with DeAndre Jones. And there's probably about, I would estimate 8 other tables like that.
Yeah, maybe 8 to 10 or something like that. And there were some couches for very, very important people. And then behind us, there was almost a stadium seating kind of bleacher setup with about 100 seats available. So
yeah, and then they also had on top of the shipping container, which was stage right or stage left, I can't remember how it works. But on top of the shipping container is where the judges were sitting. So you were always able to kind of look up at the judges throughout the show to see what their decisions were. And judges, we named in our previous video on this, but we had Nate Weston, Sydney Olsen, Pasha. What is Pasha's last name again?
The boss.
Petkins or something?
Yeah, well, I don't even think his real name is Pasha. So.
Yeah, he's like Cher now, so Pasha, first name basis. Joey Adrian, and was that 5? And Travis Verkick. So there's your judging panel, and then next to them was a couch, and we had Flip Like Z on the couch, as well as a couple guys that I
don't know who the other guys were, but Flip Like Z was there, and he was the hype man, right?
Yeah.
He was just kind of he wasn't master of ceremonies, but it felt like he was up there just kind of trying to provide the hype.
Yeah, and he did a very good job of that. And that's literally, we talked to him yesterday, and that's what he said his role was supposed to be, was up there and just bring the hype, and that's what he did. And then Master of Ceremonies was Travis Wong, just a local owner of Jam Movement. If you're not familiar, he has been in that role for like a number of different things, so very, very familiar with that. And I think he did a great job of just keeping the show going, not saying too much. I was talking with Joey Adrian after the show, and we kind of talked about commentary and commentating. Or sorry, not Joey Adrian. Sorry, I was talking to Jeffy. I was talking to Jeffy, who was one of the commentators, and Jeffy was saying that he doesn't like the calling out like play-by-play.
Oh yeah.
And that's how some people approach commentating in parkour events or freestyle events, is like calling every move, which just starts to feel weird, and you're gonna make mistakes. So he kind of settled into what he felt like was just like describing the run and picking out one piece. We couldn't hear what the commentators were saying, but they were also positioned in front of us on a couch. It was Jeffy, and then some guy that we've never seen before, who apparently he does have like a kid that goes to Tempest freerunning, so he does have some parkour knowledge, but he's also like a professional broadcaster. So it'll be interesting to see how that part turns out, because he felt like it went well. Jeffy felt like the commentating went well, and they are going to be able to edit this event down, which is kind of what we can get into next, is how they are. It seems that Tempest is going to be putting this event out there in episodes. And you were talking about during the event, like things that you imagined seeing.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So there's, one thing, in terms of things I wish were available during the live stream was like if there was, or not the live stream, there was no live stream. During the event, during the experience of the physical presence of the event, if there was a screen on the back wall that like was showing this the tournament bracket, that would be really interesting, because then we can kind of get a feel for, all right, which matchup is coming next, or like if somebody wins their matchup, what that means for them coming up later in the next round. So that would have been really cool to see. I imagine they're going to put that into some kind of like post-production. They'll include the actual brackets. And then also things like graphics of, just like you have like a lot like MMA, like, it's like you get the image of like the two fighters, like one like this and the other one kind of matching on the other side. Thought that would be really cool if we could see that. I'm sure that will be something that they'll consider in post-production as well. Maybe not with the fists, but just kind of like the face-off kind of look. If they did take some photos of the athletes, which I'm sure they did a bunch of media with the athletes beforehand, but we don't know that. Yeah,
we still don't know what the overall piece is going to look like, and if it's going to, I guess, mirror the experience we had live, which was, we finished the event and just everyone's, it's like, your typical, not typical, but your big parkour event feel, your big parkour competition feel. It felt like there was a really nice climax at the end, like like they could not have written something better than what went down. We got to be very careful about what we're saying here, but yeah, how that event ended was just perfect. It was just perfect climax, and so everyone's
storybook ending.
Yeah, everyone's just stoked, and we all like rush the arena, the stage. Everyone's just there, having a good time, talking to the athletes, checking out the size of things and stuff like that. And that was I'm assuming that they're really gonna play that up in the post production.
So they talk about the series that they're going to be making as a docu-series. So I don't think it's going to be like, I don't think it's going to be like this is the competition.
Not like World Chase Day.
Not like World Chase Day. So they're not going to broadcast it like a competition. I think they're going to kind of make it into, what's that breakdancing documentary? That's
Planet B-Boy?
Oh, it might be that one. Yeah. Anyway,
it's about Battle of the Year, where it's like the
yes,
teams
it's about
versus
Battle of the
Planet
Year.
B-Boy.
I kind of see it as something like that, except not following one team, but following the whole event and how it kind of manifested together, and going through obviously and telling the story of the actual competition that took place. But I don't think it's going to be just like a broadcast of just the event. That's my guess for what's happening.
Again, we got to be really careful with our words here, but for the winner of the men's division, I really hope, if they are going that sort of docu-series way of something like Planet B-Boy, that's a very good example of what it could be. And if they do go that way with it, I really hope they get a lot of post-event interviews with the winner. Because without that, the story, like I want to hear his play-by-play of what was going through his head between the rounds. Man, it's
it's so hard to not talk about it because there's so many interesting things that happen. The event wasn't without any controversial results. I felt like there was definitely at least one big controversial result, which changed the shape of the way the rest of the event went. If you think about who was involved in that, I'm not going to talk about any more of like the specifics around that. But and some of the matchups too were really interesting. But we won't get too deep into that. What we can talk about potentially is just like maybe individual athletes and what we were, surprised by or not surprised by.
Well, maybe, okay, so let's start by talking about then the ones that, because there are a couple of athletes that showed up that I wasn't familiar with, like I'd never seen before. And so I'd like to talk about them. But first of all, like the ones that we were expecting. So in the men's division, and who do we start with?
I'll start with talking about the twins.
Okay, so we got, the Parkour twins. Okay, we can also run down. So we got, I kind of drew a blank for a second, but we got Kevin Franzen. We got Ellis Torhall. Who else was in there that was already kind of notable on people's radar?
I don't think you knew him very well, but he was on my radar, Denali Saruno.
So he's one of the ones that I wanted to kind of touch on later as unknown, because, well, if you look at, like, I immediately, followed him on IG after, and you look at he's got like 5,000 followers. Yeah. So I'm assuming that a lot of people out there don't know who he is.
Yeah.
But yeah, Parkour twins.
Parkour twins, yeah. So, twin parkour.
Yeah.
Not parkour twins. That's different.
That's
the other twins.
That's the Australians. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So twin parkour. So that's Aiden and Shay Rudolph. They are incredible athletes, and obviously I've been paying attention to them for a really long time, because they're these two young kids who seemingly didn't have any spots near them, and they've just kind of like ended up learning all these like ridiculous skills in like a relatively like a rural area, from what I understand, and now they're like some of the top athletes in the game. I think Shay competed at Art of Motion, and unfortunately bailed his like trick that probably would have been the sickest trick. Might have also set him off to like potentially win Art of Motion. It was that castaway precision. Which, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you should go find that clip, because he did land it in practice.
Is the clip just on his IG, or their IG, I should say?
Good question. No idea.
I think it is. Probably.
I think I saw it recently. The castaway precision that he did in practice, not the one that he failed in the actual event. Anyway. Pretty incredible. So Shay and Aiden, they both absolutely killed it. I thought they both performed super well.
Yeah, and I think we can talk a little bit about like how athletes performed, like what they brought to the table. Yeah. And I felt like Shay and Aiden, they really brought, well, as you mentioned, like a diverse skill set and some unique skills that weren't seen by other athletes on the field. as well as just the ability to have like good tight line creation that didn't. It's a live competition, so it doesn't always go as planned. But some other athletes struggle with actually stringing together lines, and I felt like they performed like veterans too. Like they seemed very relaxed. Just I don't know if that's their just their usual demeanor, but they didn't seem all nervous. They didn't seem really fazed by the event. They were just kind of like, yeah, it's cool to be here.
Yeah, I mean we can't get into the specifics, but yeah, I was very impressed by the twins. I want to talk about Kevin Franzen. I think that he warrants discussing because throughout the event, it was very clear that he's an experienced competitor who knows how to craft a line, and he looked from my perspective, looked the most relaxed of any athlete out there. So yeah, I mean I'm pretty sure he's still pretty young, but he's like one of the more veteran competitors, from what I understand, and it really shows in the way he performs.
Yeah, there's so much more I want to say, but I can't.
Of course you do.
You just like thinking up, like, how do I describe how they did without saying what they did?
I'm running into the same thing.
Or giving away their placement. I think I almost dropped a spoiler for a second there. Anyway.
Well, if we accidentally do, we can cut it out. We'll bleep it out.
And then we also have the 15-year-old Ellis Torhall.
He's 17.
17.
15.
Okay.
17.
Well, I'm less impressed now.
Yeah.
17-year-old Ellis Torhall, like absolutely incredible. I think it was Dylan Poland who initially told me about Ellis, and just said like, or you and him together at the same time told me about him, and the description was like, this kid, if you look at his IG, is just posting competition winning runs all the time as like his regular posts. not competition, not in competition. He's just doing runs that are like clearly like I don't know if he's intentionally training in a way that makes him a potential like a competitor, but it seems that way. It seems like he's building himself as a competitive free runner, if we could use those terms. A competitive parkourist, a competitive parkour athlete, whatever we want to say. And he just looked like he came in with a plan. He was relatively consistent, not perfect. No one was perfect.
No one was quite perfect, yeah.
But also didn't look like his first competition. I mean, it's not. But at age 17, to have that much composure and to be able to perform at that level, it's crazy. Yeah.
I had my eye on him going into this event, and he's of course surpassed expectations. I think he would do. I think in my head he was like super capable of so many things, but seeing him perform live was like, it's kind of unreal when you see it in person compared to when you see it on IG. So, yeah, very impressed with Ellis, and just in his composure and his ability to perform such high level tricks.
And then if we can pop over to the women's division,
I was just about to do that.
Where it's like, again, same sort of things. We just talked about a number of young guys, and then we have Noah Diogina, we have Elise Bickley, and Nene, who are all teenagers as well.
Yeah.
And filling up that division. There wasn't as many women competing in the women's division. I think it ended up being half.
About half of the men, I think. Yeah, so I think it was 16 men and 8 women for the brackets. Do we want to talk about, any specific women that you wanted to talk about? Those three.
Those things. Yeah. Actually,
Or more?
I kind of want to start with. I was really cool to see Hikari compete.
Right. Yeah.
I thought that she, came out really clean, well put together lines.
Yeah.
As seen by actually a lot of the Japanese competitors. And yeah, I didn't get an opportunity to see her compete at NEPC a few years ago.
Yeah, I think she got injured like right before the event, so unfortunately couldn't participate.
Yeah, and I was just told that her competition was freestyle, so it was cool to finally see that.
Yeah, it was really interesting seeing her compete. I was very impressed with the way she performed. And just sticking with the Japanese freerunners, I mean, Nene, she's 15 years old.
Okay, so I got
Yeah. So Nene is 15 years old and very much an impressive athlete. I want to say some of the, I want to say a lot of things, but I can't say any of them actually. I thought Nene's performance was excellent. She also surpassed my expectations in what she was able to do, especially when I see it live. You see stuff on Instagram, and you're like, oh yeah, she's got a really nice bag of tricks, but you see her perform live, and it's a totally different beast.
Yeah, there was also, I think I can say this. There was a little bit of drama going in, like pre-event. There was something going on with her, and I still haven't got the whole story. So because I don't know the whole story, maybe it's not a spoiler. There was something going on, and it seemed like there was something that she had to overcome because of that, and still, seemed to still do almost everything that she wanted during the competition. Again, no one really comes out with perfect execution on everything.
Yeah.
But it seemed like she had things she wanted to do, and she got those done. And yeah, like her, I think she might be the future for women's freestyle. Right now, it looks like, at age 15, and she still has improved a lot over the last just like year or two. So I think it would be fair to say that she might be the future of that.
Yeah,
division.
And speaking of the future, we also have Noah Diorgina, man, and she is Red Bull sponsored athlete at what, 17 or something? Who
also got a lot taller.
She's gotten taller, yeah.
I just like remembering seeing her in person like 2 years ago, and just look now it's like we're kind of just like looking eye to eye, and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. She's growing up and she's getting better. Like I said, she's sponsored by Red Bull now, which is a huge accomplishment in general. There's not a lot of people that get sponsored by Red Bull, and she won Art of Motion last year in the women's division. So obviously she also trains for competition, right? At least it looks that way from the outside. So, and I think we're going to see more of that. The younger competitors are just going to come up with like competition being such a normal part of the sport, that we're going to see a lot of like, she has a coach and she's like being helped with like crafting her lines and stuff like that. I think it's just going to be more commonplace moving into the future, training specifically for competition.
Yeah, it almost like makes me think of some of the athletes we didn't see. So again, the judges, like Travis Verkeick, who's like, I talked to him and he's like, I don't really like competing. That's what he told me, and it's kind of weird because like I do remember myself just when speed competitions first started coming out and not really feeling it, partially because of not performing well, or the pressure, just like the anxiety that comes with, oh, now I'm being put like for everyone to see. You're being put on a pedestal with everyone else competing. Whereas if you can hang back and just put out videos, it feels a lot different because you're in those comfortable spaces training with people and not just performing and competing against other people.
Well, and you can take as many attempts as you want at something without the pressure of like going now, or like, you know, you have the control over your own.
Yeah. But I guess part of the reason why I wanted to bring him up, and as you were talking about Noah and some of the younger athletes that are, you know, out there with a coach and with a plan and with just like this purpose to come to these competitions. I'm sure they, you know, enjoy practicing parkour and everything for what it is, but it seems like a part of their path is to enter into competitions. Whereas for Verky, that's doesn't seem to be the case at all. You know, he's happy to just win, you know, hopefully win the store award.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's, you know, it's his competition. It's just, I'm just going to do my thing, put out some dope videos.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's probably not even like, he's probably not necessarily training to win the store awards, though. That's the thing. And neither is Dom. I mean, Dom like is competitive and he wants to win it. Like, but I don't think that's like necessarily the driving force behind what he's doing. Like he's a professional parkour athlete. He's doing stuff and posting it online in the way that professional parkour athletes do. It just so happens that Story runs in a competition every year that looks at the data of all the, or like looks at all the like the media that's come out of all the, you know, all the dopest athletes around the world, and they just select the best male, best female, right? So, yeah, like Verky, like his competition is like just seeing how well he can get his YouTube going, you know, like, and then from there, all of his media is up for everybody to see, and Storer can then potentially choose him as the winner of best male for the year.
Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to talk about too, because in line with Verky is competition style. So part of the reason why he's not in that competition is, you know, partially like admittedly like, oh, it doesn't really cater to what he does, like constructing like, oh, you have to put it together a line that's like 5 moves strung together with transitions or whatever. And usually he's out there putting together maybe like a 2 or a 3 piece or a 1 piece move, bang, and it's done.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think what I don't want to get too stuck on like the people who didn't compete, but what I did find cool was Kings of the Concrete had a time limit, right, of 15.
Very good decision.
15 to 20 seconds, right? Which I was like, when they said that initially, I was like, oh, I wonder if they're gonna have like a buzzer that goes off or something like that to like actually police it. But they did not, and I'm sure some people went over 20 seconds, but I think just allowing or encouraging and just saying, okay, it's 15 to 20 seconds, that made people construct better lines and kept it tighter than just saying like, hey, build a line on the course. And oftentimes I think what we've seen in other types of competitions is if you say your time limit is 90 seconds, people try to use all 90 seconds instead of being smart about constructing a line that just looks tight and looks, you know, and accomplishes everything you want to. And a good line is what most competitions want to see, but we need to be able to convey to the athletes how to do a good, clean line, a short constructed line that, you know, isn't a minute and a half long.
Yeah. So the time limit, that was a good choice. It's something that both of us can say, like, you know, we were really happy that, because we didn't know that, I think, until
it was announced live.
Day of competition, is because you think like, oh, okay, they're going to throw down, they're going to do lines. It seemed like the pre-event information was pitching lines, not just like you do a move, I do a move. So it was line versus line, and it also just makes it easier to judge. Like, could you imagine how how tough that would have been if it's like you get a minute head to head, and it's like, what did they do again? It's like, you know, I'm several minutes into it now, and I'm trying to think back, like it almost like would favor like the second person more, because you're just gonna forget what the first person did after waiting like a whole minute and a half for the second person to go. Yeah. So that was a great decision, and it helped with the overall length of the event too, because we had to see some of those athletes had to do like four lines.
Right. Yeah. 4 lines, and that's a lot, right? And it's
Yeah, you imagine like 4 1-minute lines. You would have just seen the same thing again.
So they did have they had all day to prepare, which was cool because the more practice they get, the better they're going to perform.
Yeah, I was actually really pleased going in to know that had happened, because again, the way that the competition was being pitched as this secret location and everything, it seemed like there was going to be no practice. Just like the way that Gabe was kind of selling it was like, yeah, you show up, bring your lines, and it was just going to be like, here's the spot, go.
Yeah. No, they had all day to prepare, which is good because they could really craft their lines and hopefully develop more than just one line. If some people only got one line because it was a knockout tournament, so it was literally 1v1. If you lost, you were out of the competition. And if you won, you move on to the next round where you have to do another line. And some of the strategy involved in this was kind of interesting. Is like, did every athlete come up with 4 lines? Probably not, but some of them probably did, right? In preparation for the,
It was especially interesting to see some of the athletes who clearly saved for the end. Like they were doing impressive things like throughout, but there was some that were clearly like by the time
there
we
was
got
definitely
to the
some
end,
strategy involved in like holding back, you're like hiding some of your hand. Yeah, I thought so. Another thing that was implemented, which I thought was a cool rule, that wasn't announced until like halfway through the event, was that when you were going head to head, the first person went, but whoever they were going against wasn't allowed to watch. And because I was watching, early on, I was like, oh, okay, well, that person just like fell or messed up. If I'm the next competitor, I would just take it easier, do my line a little bit like just make sure I land everything and do my line, clean, as opposed to doing what maybe is like the harder stuff so I can really push through. Because the person fell, that means I'm definitely going to get through if I just land everything clean. But they weren't allowed to watch. And that wasn't announced until about halfway through. We realized like, oh, okay, they're not allowed to watch. So that's a good call on Tempest's part because then you would have sandbagging, right? You'd have somebody who sees somebody fall or mess up on their line, and they're gonna be like, all right, I'm going to intentionally lower the quality of my next run so that I get through without having to like risk it.
Yeah, it's an interesting take on that because you're sounding like you really like that.
Yeah, I do.
And I don't know. I don't know if I'm like totally sold on that being the best way to do it, because if you are competing, competition is about strategy.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's like removing some ability to strategize. But I even heard from like some athletes after that they were listening for crowd reaction and stuff to determine like how well someone, which is kind of its own thing, right? Is like, oh, like how good am I at like reading crowd reaction or just listening for things to determine whether or not someone biffed it.
You can get some information out of crowd reaction, but the thing is, I wouldn't bet on it. I wouldn't bet on that going into. So it's like if I was second up, the person I'm going against goes, I hear some crowd reaction that's like, oh, they might have like messed up a trick. That means, that's not going to change my behavior going into my line. Mm-hmm. Whereas if I saw somebody totally like fall on their side during their run, I would definitely change my strategy to make whatever I'm doing next like a little bit easier to make sure I like land everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess it probably would affect it less maybe in like a point system, where if they were all receiving like a score, because your score is going to put you on the podium or not on the podium, so you still kind of want to push harder to get like the highest score possible. Mm-hmm. But I wonder how many athletes would take a break, basically. Like if someone like really messed up, if they would just like, take a break to, and also we don't even know how hard they were judging mess ups or slip ups or.
Yeah, that's true. But it just seems so obvious, right? Like if somebody does a move, like a hard move, and they land on their side, they get up, they finish their run. Mm-hmm. It's going to be really difficult to select that run unless the other person also falls.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like if the other person lands a perfectly clean run, but they're not quite as difficult.
But what if they fall or slip up on something? And again, we don't know because there was no. I thought this was a weird thing about the event is like Travis Wong at the beginning says like we didn't come up with a miracle judging formula, which I think he was reading off of a script. He said we're just saying like who did the best, and it's like okay. There's a criteria for best. And I'm not saying that they didn't have a criteria. There was even like a pre-show like judge meeting that we saw like all the judges go into. So there probably was some sort of criteria, but we don't actually know what the criteria falls were. And so we also don't know like, okay, say you try to do something really big and you under or over rotate it. There's like a hand touchdown, but you connect it or whatever. Do they count the attempt of the big move or is it completely erased? And I think that's where some of like the head scratching happened during the event, and probably one of like the only major criticisms I have of the event is there still needs to be clarity in judging, because we talked about some of the controversial decisions. We spoke to some of the judges post-event, and so we kind of know what their thought process was and what was important to them. But I don't think it should be that way. I don't think it should be like you have 5 judges and one judge is really, really strict on bails, and another judge is really, really strict on like how connected the line is, and then you have another judge who's just like who's doing the biggest stuff. There's just too much variety there if there's not like a consistent criteria. Again, we don't know, but it would have been just to finish. It would have been nice as an audience participant to have like a 5 bullet point list, but we got nothing.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not opposed to criteria, and I think that's going to develop over time. But I also don't think it's super necessary. Like this event is like this, like there was a couple calls I disagreed with, but ultimately, at the end of the day, do I think the right person won? Probably. Like,
Could they have been knocked out earlier in the competition? Probably.
That's true. I agree. But again, it's like there's like I'm okay with the subjectivity of style because it is like I would rather it be subjective on this level and fun than have it be like gymnastics. Like the closer we get to gymnastics, the less I'm interested I am in the sport.
Okay, so real quick, Kings of the Concrete, just on the notion of judging, the notion of like it being a fun event. Do you feel like this is an event where you look at the winner and you say like this is the best style athlete because they won? And I know some people weren't able to show up to the event due to injury or whatever, and so like you might be reserved. But like let's say they did. Let's say that no one had any injuries and all the best athletes showed up and the competition ran its course the way it did. Would you be able to say at the end that's the best style athlete?
I don't think that that's a possible thing.
Just in general?
the vastitude, I don't think that's a word, but I'm gonna say it anyway. The vastitude of abilities in style and in parkour in general it's so wide that like let's talk about people who weren't there, like Ed Scott versus who's another great style athlete. Let's just talk about NAPC. Ed Scott versus Max Antle of, like both of those guys did super incredible stuff. They had very different styles, very different big tricks at the end. Who do I think won? Ed Scott did a better performance overall. Is he the better style athlete? I don't know, maybe. The person who won Kings of Concrete could have beat Ed Scott. Mm-hmm. The person who won Art of Motion? Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Christian Kowaleski, he won Art of Motion. Mm-hmm. He could have beaten Ed Scott. He could have beat the person that won Kings of Concrete. Anyone on a good day could win, and that's
the same in every sport, though. That's the same in fighting. Like you could have two fighters and be like, oh, well, this guy's the champion. He just won. But you might think that this person's the better fighter, but they didn't win that night because they were off or whatever. Or anything can happen. Yeah. Anything can happen. But at the same time, you do want sport, and then I guess that's the question I'm asking is was this sport or was this just a fun, entertaining event? I guess that's the real question I'm trying to get to here.
I see it as both, but I guess it's
did they crown a world champion? Maybe is another way to ask it.
Yes.
Because I don't think they did. I guess that's my reasoning. I think that it was more of to pivot to a skateboarding brand like Thrasher, and Thrasher does events, and it's okay, we're just throwing. This is a throwdown, right? And that's what it felt like. It felt like a throwdown type of event. The tournament style, I think you really need points to determine a champion, particularly in style, because you need different rounds, like how we tried to structure it in SPL, and so this just felt like a type of competition, but really just an opportunity for a showcase, a throwdown to happen, but not a format where you could really clearly at the end say this person is the world champion.
Yeah, I don't think you can say that this person is a world champion because the best people weren't in attendance, or many of the best people.
But if they were with this type of event,
I think you could make the argument that yes, they could crown a world champion.
I think they would need to at least do double elimination.
But that would mean that all the athletes have to come up with even more lines. It would be it would be so much longer and so much harder for the athletes to do. I don't think that's a reasonable
way I'm just saying I think because of the fact that it's line only, and you can mess up a tiny bit in one round and be out of again, you have to survive all these rounds, right? There's a reason why a lot of sports don't do that anymore, or if you're in a tournament in another sport, you play 3 games against another team, you play best of 3, best of 5, or whatever in a series.
It was sad for me to see some people get knocked out in their first round when it felt like they could have potentially made it to a higher placement, a second place or something like that, if they weren't paired against that other person for their first round. That was definitely sad to me. So a double elimination would kind of correct for that. I just don't think it's necessarily feasible, at least for a one-day thing. If it was spread across a couple days, a tournament that went across a couple days, you could do a double elimination. It would work better to crown a championship, or a world champion. But yeah. I don't know. I think there's so many different things that happen in parkour competition that we're just kind of experimenting with and Kings of the Concrete was just a different way of doing it that we haven't seen yet, and at least in this iteration of it. And I felt like it was a great way to do things. Like, it's easier to judge. It's easier to, even though there's like discrepancies in judgment, I think it's still like ultimately leads to the same place.
Yeah, I think back to when we did like our first big event, and it was also like a head-to-head, but with just teams.
Yeah.
I don't know why we decided teams. I think it was just to make it fun.
Yeah.
But that was part of the reason is like, we've watched so many Red Bulls where the scoring is weird, and we're like, this will be easy. It's just, you just line up a couple judges, and you go, one team goes, the other team goes, and then you win or you win. And, that's what we landed on, and then we abandoned it.
We did.
But I think we abandoned it based on the fact that it's harder to crown a champion that way.
Yeah. We also never tried 1v1.
Yeah.
We never we just decided to go the point system route, which I'm happy we did, because it led to us developing that big trick round, which has every year been the most exciting part of the event. I think we just went a different direction and ultimately came across a way that works for our event. Kings of the Concrete, I think, just went a different way, and we've talked about this before, but I'm super happy to see other formats come out.
Yeah.
Because the more formats come out, the more we can look at what works and what doesn't. I don't know if we'll ever use a 1v1 again, or a tournament style competition. Never say never. I don't think we would, based on like what our format has developed into, and I think there's a lot of great things. I'm pretty publicly like not into Red Bull's format and the way that they judge things, and I just think it's always led to the least memorable competitions. I was telling you about this before, but Red Bull's competitions the runs aren't very memorable, right?
Yeah, it's like a good challenge that you issued is what's your favorite Red Bull Art of Motion moment?
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments.
Yeah. That would be, and there's a few that I can think of personally off the top of my head of like favorite moments, but other parkour events have just had more memorable moments, including the one we just attended. Way more memorable. Like I'll remember this like for a long time because of what happened.
So back to Kings of the Concrete. We have said a lot about the event without saying too much. Is there anything that you feel like we've missed that you wanna share with those who were not in attendance?
There's other athletes that were great that
We didn't mention Didi.
Yeah, we didn't mention Didi. Didi was in attendance, and he competed. He did some really cool stuff. Honestly, there was a couple other guys, I don't even know their names still, and they did really well. One guy who you hadn't seen before, his name is Evan Storm, I think, is his Instagram handle. Shout out to Evan, he's dope. He's 21 and on the come up. I think he performed super well, and I'm really excited to see more from him. So we were talking about some of the people that were involved. I think I'm really excited to see that Tempest did a competition at all, because when was the last Tempest competition? I know they've had smaller ones that are just kind of like their gym community, like speed course events and stuff like that.
They were part of the NAPC tour in 2019.
That's right, yeah, but at the Texas location,
but it wasn't their.
But it wasn't their event, right? So this is the first Tempest branded event since the Tempest games, from what I can remember, right?
Yeah.
I don't think so. Like that's like a huge takeaway for me, is that like they're finally doing something that is super on brand for Tempest, and like just even down to like the experience of the event, just being there as a spectator, I felt like, yeah, this is a Tempest event. It feels like, I don't know why I feel that way, but it feels like, yeah, this is a Tempest event.
It's Hollywood.
It felt like Hollywood.
Yeah.
It felt like LA.
When we were just starting the event, like sitting down, it's just everything's getting started, and we're just looking around, and I'm just mentally taking notes of things, and it's like one of the things that comes to mind is just like, dang it, we couldn't afford to do this. Like, this is like how the and you know, we find out after the event too, like this is not an event where they're making money off the revenue. Like
Right.
there's revenue, you know, there's ticket sales, and that's probably about it at this point. Probably just ticket sales to, you know, make some of the money back. But like many of the events that we've done, actually all the events we've done, this is not something where they're walking away from the event with a profit. And so part of the reason is, you know, brand exposure. Another part of the reason is just like doing cool stuff for parkour.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's like 100% altruistic. I think there's also like they want to probably do something with this post-production series that they're going to develop.
I hope that does well for them.
I do too. Yeah, I would love to see that get onto like a Netflix or a Hulu or something like that, so that people can watch parkour or potentially find parkour without you know, just watching on YouTube or something like that, right? Like if they're just like sitting Netflixing and be like, oh, what's this Kings of the Concrete thing? Yeah, let's watch this. You know, I think that would be super cool.
Yeah.
I really hope that's successful. I hope the pitch goes well and they get in. But yeah, I mean, like Tempest, like I said in our last conversation that, you know, I was an early hater of Tempest, like way back in the day. I free run LA and stuff. And I'm so happy that they've stuck with it for so long, and I've been able to have the time to change my mind. Because Tempest is a great brand for parkour, and you know, they've done some cringy and silly stuff in the past, but I think Kings of the Concrete is the furthest from cringy that they've ever been, and it's like I'm so excited for the future of that event and for the future of Tempest.
That's a really good way to put it on the brand, and you know, it's weird because like I feel like if anyone involved with the brand watches this and you're saying like, you know, things they did in the past cringes, like, what are you talking about? That was the best. Like, you just don't know. You know, you're not with the culture.
I'm in the culture.
But yeah, it does really feel that way. That's like such a good point that this was like, yeah, and it just strengthens the whole like missing out thing where there weren't as many big name people, or people, you know, like it was people were surprised that we flew out to see it, you know, and I was like, really, like this sounded like a big deal. Of course we came out, you know, but I guess, you know, some people missed out. You know, if you're watching this, maybe you missed out, and you know, it sucks to be you.
Well, eventually they'll be able to get a chance to see it, or hopefully, you know, once all this once the editors are done and they're able to, I don't know if they're gonna pitch it to a Netflix or something.
I'm still like under the not predicting, but you know, just think it's a big possibility that it won't get released.
I think at a minimum, you know, if it doesn't pull together, they wanted like in the way that they wanted to, I think at a minimum it'll go up on YouTube at some point.
It just might take longer.
It might take a long time though, because they had so much footage. I could just tell watching it. Like they had 2 camera people who were almost exclusively shooting audience.
Yeah,
audience reaction.
I'm gonna say the reason why I think it's either going to take a long time, or that or that it's just not going to surface at all. That it was like the experiment worked. Okay, we saw that we could film. Okay, we saw that we could have a live event. Let's wait till next year and release that one. The reason I'm thinking that is because I wasn't able to find the editor. I was able to talk to, I think his name was Julian, guy who was like really in charge of getting a lot of footage, and he wasn't able to tell me who was going to edit this thing. And that, to me, that is a problem, that your editor is not, and maybe he's the person that does it. Maybe they do have someone. I'm just speculating. That the fact that I don't know who's editing it makes me think that it's either going to take a long time, or it's not going to come out at all.
I think there's no doubt it's going to take a while, but I also I don't know. I feel like this event was too cool not to release, unless there was like some really big problems.
What I'm hoping for is that there was an editor. They were pre-selected. They did see however, because there's a concept in film is like shoot to edit, and so you shoot things in a way thinking ahead to actually like edit how it's gonna turn out. So I'm hoping that there was an editor involved and that they got to work, because it's the kind of thing too that you want to get to work on like right away. You want to treat it like there's a deadline. So so hopefully there's someone editing right now.
I don't know who I was talking to. I was talking to Gabe, and there was a couple other people in the conversation, and I heard something like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna go sit down and look at the footage soon," or something like that, something to that effect. So I'm optimistic. I have no idea when it'll come out. I hope it's sooner than later. But I'm optimistic it is going to come out. Because then us filming this and not talking about the results would be a total waste. Come on.
I do think that it's going to get leaked, though.
Yeah, I think you'll probably find out the winners in due time. Eventually, somebody's going to tell somebody.
Not already. Yeah. Okay, so just to kind of like wrap up here, then.
Yeah.
What I'd like to do here is if you were going to pitch this to someone, so say this is like it's a movie, that's going to be released, and you just wanted to pitch your review, if you're giving it a 2 thumbs up or out of 5 or whatever, maybe we can score it. Maybe we can score it and then just give like a 2 or a 3 liner as to what to expect.
So we're gonna
what the review, the short summary review. So if someone just wanted to fast forward through this video and go right to the end and say like, was it, what am I getting into?
Okay, I would give it 4.5 stars out of 5.
That's a good score.
I thought the event was well paced. There was tons of action. It wasn't without controversy and problems. And this edit might take a super long time. So a live stream would be kind of like a nicer, way to release it to the community, to the culture. But overall, it was like a fantastic experience from my perspective as a spectator, and I would do it again. I would come down and watch it again next year for sure.
Yeah, I think 4 to 5 is fair, and I think what people can expect is, as we've already said, there is definitely a story here. There is a climax. There is drama. And probably, I'm gonna say the most impressive line I've ever seen.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think
took you a minute.
I went back and I in my head I rewatched Ed's line from AVZ last 2019 with the big side pre, but still that one doesn't quite hold the candle to this one, the one that we're talking about.
Not even like if you compare time to time, I think
Yeah.
I think the line that happened at Kings of the Concrete, man, like just the level anyway.
Well, hopefully you will get a chance to see this line eventually once this video is edited or the series is finished. But do you have anything else that you want to talk about?
No, man, we gotta wrap this up.
Yeah. So we're leaving LA tomorrow morning, but the next time you see us, we'll be back in Vancouver. And that's it for today's episode. So thanks for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, leave us a comment below, and we will catch you in the next video.